Hey, I'm ChristopherJMUA and welcome back to my channel. Unless you've never been here, of course, then welcome. I'm so glad you've stopped by. Because today, we are reviewing the Smashbox Studio Skin Full Coverage 24-Hour Foundation, which has a weightless feel and has oil and shine control, and is also infused with kaolin clay and bamboo powder. I got this mainly because Tati, you know, like Tati Beauty, like Glam Life Guru, like that chica, she raves about this stuff and talks about how amazing it is and how much she loves it, so she made me want to really try it. Now, Tati and I are not the same person, so it might not work for me, but I would like to think and hope that what she loves, I would love too. So that's what we're here to try, is to see if I love this Smashbox foundation. I've never really tried anything from Smashbox except the primer, the like pore perfecting primer or whatever it's called. I also got a primer from them today as well, the Photo Finish Minimize Pores primer. Haven't seen this one, I've only used that clear one. So this will be new for me as well, I believe. So if you want to know everything that I end up knowing about this Smashbox foundation, about how it looks on the skin, how it works with this primer, the price, the details, and if it really does give you studio skin, then stay exactly where you are. Keep doing exactly what you're doing and keep on watching. Now, as for this Smashbox Studio Skin Full Coverage 24-Hour Foundation, I got this from Ulta and it was $36. I got the shade 2.12, which is for the skin tone light and the undertone neutral. Now, something that I noticed whenever I was looking for my shade of this foundation is I went from 2.12, which was really light on me, then I went to 2.18, which was pretty dark on me, and there were only two in the middle of those. One was a little lighter but a little too rosy for me. One was a little darker and leaned a little too cool toned for me. So it was either a light neutral or a deep neutral. I don't know if maybe that's just my skin tone not working for that specific line, or I don't really know what it was. Maybe this oxidizes and I'll get lucky and it won't be as light as Casper. I'm not sure, but they did offer and do offer 40 shades on Ulta's website, and in my opinion 40 shades is pretty good. I mean, it's not the best, but it's a pretty fair range. So I thought it would be really easy to find like the perfect match, but not as easy as I thought. That's okay. Now also, according to Ulta's website, the description for the foundation is as follows. Smashbox's Studio Skin Full Coverage 24-Hour Foundation is a comfortable 24-hour full coverage foundation that weightlessly glides over skin. It controls oil and shine and has a blurring effect. It's also waterproof, sweat and humidity resistant, won't look cakey or cause acne. Formulated without parabens, phthalates, silicone, talc, SLS and SLES, triclosan and triclocarbon sulfate, mineral oil, formaldehydes and formaldehyde releasing agents, coal tar, chemical sunscreens, retinol palmitate, hydroquinone, and undisclosed synthetic fragrances. So this is like a clean foundation, it sounds like. I don't know exactly if that's true, but it sounds like it's very free of many things. The main thing I got out of it is that it controls oil and shine. Now that worries me a little bit because I have normal to dry skin, and if this is super mattifying or super drying on the skin, it's really gonna show on my skin. I'm gonna get dry patches, it's gonna look cakey and gross. Trust me, I've been there, you guys have seen it. It hasn't always been the greatest. We know that now, and we learned it together. But we're gonna try with this one and see. So first things first, we need to prime. Now this new primer is the Smashbox Photo Finish Minimize Pores primer, and I guess I got a travel size. I was just looking up the price to see if I could figure out what it was because I don't remember how much it was when I bought it. This is only 15 bucks. Go me. Let's just say I got the travel size because I wanted to try it before I bought the full size. Yeah. That's what it was. But this was sitting right beside the foundation on the shelf, so I figured why not give it a shot. I like pore minimizing products because I have very large pores because I'm a man. Not to say if you have big pores you're a man, although you may be, but I'm gonna stop talking now and put this pore minimizing primer on. Actually, this says to use this on normal to oily skin, which I'm normal, and it says to smooth over clean, moisturized skin. My skin is clean because I used a makeup wipe earlier, so that was a cleansing, but I did not use a moisturizer after that. This is kind of late at night at this moment in time, so the last time I applied moisturizer was like this morning. So I'm gonna use my Physicians Formula Argan Oil and just add a little bit of moisture back to my skin before I go in with the primer. And I just used 4 little drops here, nothing major. This has no sparkle in it or illuminating beads or anything like that. I don't want to add illumination. I don't want to do anything negative to the foundation. And I feel like illuminating with a foundation that fights glow and oiliness would be just futile. Okay, feeling nice and hydrated now and looking a little more glowy. My skin looks actually kind of pretty with that on it. Now let's use the Minimize Pores Primer. Oh, I thought it was gonna be purple toned. It is not. Ooh, that feels already like NYX pore filling primer. Never mind. Maybe a little softer and less greasy feeling. Oh wow, that is so soft. That's like silky smooth. That almost feels like Benefit Porefessional, but not so dry. Kind of like the El Poreless Primer or the Tatcha Silk Canvas even. It's that type of texture, and it is definitely immediately blurring. I can see all of those pores underneath my eyes look very reduced, very minimized. Yeah, very, very blurring. It does have a little bit of that, I want to say silky feel. I don't really know what it is. It feels kind of dry. It was definitely mattifying, that's for sure. Now I definitely like the way my skin looks after filling my pores with this primer, but it is very drying. I feel like my skin has no moisture left to it where I put that, and that's not necessarily the greatest thing for me, but if you have oily skin, that is gonna work wonders. It is gonna soak up any oil you have. It's gonna mattify the skin, it's gonna blur the skin. My skin's blurred, that's definite. I'm just a little dry, but that's okay. We're gonna go in with the foundation anyway. We're gonna see how it works. At this point, if I were using deductive reasoning and applying my makeup, I would apply some type of moisture back to my skin, like a moisturizing setting spray or a hydrating primer on top of the mattifying primer. But I want to be the trusting customer that just does their normal thing and puts on the foundation. So that's what we're gonna do. Only difference is I'm gonna use a sponge on one side and a brush on the other so that we can see the difference. On the left side of the ring, we have the Beauty Blender Flesh Tone. On the right side of the ring, we have the Luxie 732 Airbrush Foundation Brush. Ready? Fight! I forgot, I have to take the foundation out of the box first. Oh, we have a squeezy tube. I knew that. I forgot, but I knew that. This is already giving me MAC Hydrating Studio Fix Foundation vibes. It's not, apparently, but it says Studio on it, and it's in the tube. There are some similarities, you have to admit. Now, when I opened the box, there was a Studio tip right on the inside of the carton, and it says, a little goes a long way. So that is a good note to take. So let's start with a little bit. I'm gonna start with the Beauty Blender side, but what I'm gonna do instead of applying it directly to the sponge and blending it out, so I'm applying it to my finger first. I'm gonna take about that much, I guess. With it saying that this has clay in it, I know it's gotta spread far. Think of like those clay masks that you get, how they're really thick and you can take just a little bit of it and spread it from here to here. I'm thinking that's how this is gonna be, but who knows yet. So I'm gonna start just applying some here and there. And now gonna grab my sponge and just start blending out. Now, this was so light on me in Ulta. Okay, so for me, first impression, first application, very first of the first, that does not go as far as I thought it would when it came to saying use a little bit and it goes a long way. It did spread, but it spread like it was really thick. And I mean, it is really thick. It makes sense that it would spread that way. I just thought, I don't know, I thought I'd have a little bit more maneuverability. The dry time is super fast. By the time I got down to the foundation that was on my neck, it had already pretty much dried. And I started here and moved up and around for no specific reason. That's just the way that I worked. But I can see some little patchy pieces here where it was already starting to dry and it didn't blend out. So I would suggest definitely moving very quickly if you're gonna use a sponge, at least, based on what I've seen so far. Maybe start just in the one area and then start blending it out from there. Then get more if you need it, add it in and blend it out from there, so on and so forth. The coverage looks full where I tapped my finger. where it had already started to dry, that looks full and it actually looks pretty decent. But everywhere else, it looks like I just smeared some yellowy cream everywhere and it doesn't look very good. Now before I go in with the second application on the sponge side, I'm gonna go ahead and go with the first application on the brush side because I wanna see what one application looks like with that first. And again, just to be fair, I'm going to squeeze some out onto my finger. Oh, that was probably too much. That's definitely not the same amount I used on the other side. See if I can take a little bit back in there. Oh wow, that worked. Haha. Okay, cool. Now, boop. 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 Yeah, I'm putting way more on this side. I didn't mean to, but I guess that's the new plan. It's under my nail. Ugh. Okay, let's see. Guess I'm gonna start with my forehead? Yeah, I used a lot more on this side. Wow, like a lot. Jeez. A little bit does go a long way. Okay. Coverage with the brush side is very nice. Granted, I used a lot more product, probably double the amount that I used on the other side, which probably would have helped out a lot on getting that full coverage on this side. Definitely got full coverage on this side. It's very full in most places. It could use a little bit of building in a couple of places, but for the most part, it is full coverage. I would say medium in just a couple of others. However, I'm guessing in combination with the primer that I used, my skin looks so dry. I'm already getting sort of little crack marks where it looks like my skin is just so dry that it's cracking in the foundation, just like a clay mask would do. That's what my mind keeps going back to, is just clay mask, clay mask. And if I was oily, or if I really had any oil coming through right now, or if my skin wasn't mattified right before this because of the primer I used, I feel like I might be okay. But I think my skin right now is just way too dry for this. I think the primer I used didn't help that at all. So what I'm gonna do is go in with my Farsali Rose Gold Skin Mist. This has some hydrating properties within it, and I'm gonna see if this will kind of bring back the life to my face. Then I'm gonna go in with more foundation and build it up, just so I can avoid that dry, cracky clay face. That was probably way too much, but I feel amazing. Now that I've sprayed, let's see. You know, that actually helped out a lot. It's not the most amazing yet, but that really helped. That took away a lot of that dry crackiness, and it brought a little bit of luminosity back to my skin, like I have some reflection going on. Light is actually capable of bouncing off of my face now, instead of my face just soaking it up because it was so dry it was looking to soak up anything. I feel like this neutral tone might be a little yellow on me, potentially. But that's fine, I'll survive. So I'm gonna go back in with my beauty blender, and I'm going to apply the foundation directly to it this time, and I'm just gonna go in and build up the coverage as much as I can everywhere until I get up to full consistently. No more patchiness, no more anything. I'm gonna build it up to a point that I think it looks good on coverage, so that we can really truly test out the finish and the texture and what it really looks like on my skin. Sponge side is done. Now time to go back in with the brush side and build that up to the level of coverage that it needs to be, which is full. Okay, both sides are now completely blended out. They're both full coverage, definitely. I mean, you can see it. There is nothing left of my skin color coming through this. And that still makes me believe that this is very yellow on me. And I don't know what I'm gonna do about that, because it says this is neutral. And if this is neutral, I'm a banana. That's just it. I'm a banana if this is neutral. So I'm probably gonna need to go back into Ulta and see if I can find a closer shade match, or if this yellow undertone is just my shade. The lightness is correct. It looks like this is my level of tan, but the undertone, I just feel very yellow and icky, kind of. But that's fine, the show must go on. So, The finish actually looks pretty good now. Now that I added a little bit of moisture in, and now that it's been sitting a little bit, it's actually looking pretty good. Feel like the longer that I wear this foundation, the more what little bit of oils I do have will kind of come through a little bit, and it'll look even better as time goes on. I just have to be really careful to avoid dryness, and I'm really afraid to set this foundation. Now that I do have it applied everywhere, as a precaution, just in case, you don't have to do this if you're using this foundation or if you want to use this foundation, unless you're normal to dry and you feel the necessity to, but I'm gonna use my Farsali spray again, just to make sure that I'm well hydrated. I think I'm good now. And since this is a very mattified type product, I'm gonna go in with my Colourpop No Filter Concealer. I'm using the shades Medium 26 and Light 16. Maybe not on this Medium 26, it might be too dark. We'll find out after I mix it up. It's been a little while since I've used it. No, that's gonna be too dark. I can see it already. Okay, so we're actually just gonna use Light 16. And this one, obviously, is a little bit brightening for me, so I'm really gonna keep it contained to my under eyes. Normally, I would run this on the bridge of my nose, on my chin, on my cupid's bow, and on my forehead, but I don't wanna mess with the formula of this foundation too much, and I don't wanna make this a Colourpop No Filter Concealer review. I wanna make it a Smashbox Studio Fix 24-hour full coverage foundation review. Studio Skin, not Studio Fix, Studio Skin. I'm so sorry. Oh, also, I wanted to tell you, when it comes to which tool to use for application, I would suggest using the tool that works best with your skin type. It seemed like the brush got me to full coverage faster, as it would, because it's not soaking up excess product. But I would say that if you have drier skin, maybe use the sponge so that you can add product on slowly and build it up so you're not overdoing it too quickly, because too much of this will make you dry. But if you have oily skin, use the brush and just go there. Get it there right then, because it's gonna soak up all your oil. Go for it. Needless to say, for me, I'm using my sponge. Now I'm just using the same sponge and the same side that I used for my foundation to blend out my concealer. I'm always curious to see if my concealers will blend in with these foundations that I review. Some products just don't work well together. Now before I decide or not if I'm going to set my entire face with powder, I do have to set my under eyes with powder because they are very creasy and I just want to make sure that they're set in place. So I'm going to use my Jeffree Star Magic Star setting powder for that, just to make sure they're locked in. Now that I did go ahead and put the loose setting powder all under my eyes and up my nose, because I had to bake just a little bit. Even though this is really drying foundation, I still had to bake just a tiny bit. I can't help it. Now I'm gonna go in with my Urban Decay All Nighter Waterproof Setting Powder. This setting powder is bomb, but I just wanna kinda go over everything lightly and use this to dust the setting powder off from my under eyes and my nose, just so I don't run the brush too deep, but I just wanna lightly graze over everything just to make sure it is set in place, but without completely taking all of the moisture out of my face. Okay, everything is now set. Let's see what it looks like. Looks a little yellow, looks a little dry. And apparently the primer that was on my nose did not agree with the foundation that went on top of it, because the foundation kind of slipped and slid around on top of the primer. But everywhere that didn't happen, it still looks pretty decent. Like on the main areas of skin, like around on my cheek, the big surface area of my cheek and my forehead, it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look creasy. It doesn't look super textured. It actually looks relatively smooth, and it looks like my skin is kind of filled, so it's not super gross looking. It just lifted off right here and right here, and around my nostrils, that's kind of not really cakey looking, but it looks like it didn't get all the way in. It looks like there's an area around there. And again, I can't blame the undertone on the foundation yet anyway, unless they all look like this, but so far that's my fault. I honestly think that if I went in with this foundation without a mattifying primer, actually with more of a hydrating primer, I think I would really love this foundation. Just what I'm seeing wrong so far is fixable. Now it's time to see if all of the foundation lifts up while I bronze. So I'm gonna use my Anastasia bronzer. This one is in the shade Tawny, and my Morphe M143 big giant fan brush, and we're gonna bronze. Maybe. This is the first time I've ever used this bronzer, so it might be gross too. Who knows? This is a much warmer bronzer than I anticipated originally. It's kind of giving me blushy tones at the same time as it's giving me bronzy tones. Why do I love that? Okay, but like, I love this bronzy moment. I don't know if maybe it's because I never used that bronzer before, but I'm kind of crushing. I really like that bronzer. And the best part of it is, the foundation stood up to all of those bristles running across my face over and over and over again. I didn't see it move at all. None of it budged anywhere. It didn't drag anywhere. It didn't skip anywhere. It didn't start pulling apart. Maybe I warmed up a little too much now that I'm looking at it close up, but who cares? Whatever, you know? Needless to say, I kinda love it. Now I'm also gonna go in with a little blush. I'm gonna go in with Tarte Natural Beauty Amazonian Clay Blush. Let's see how this foundation holds up to my blush power. Speaking of blush power, I'm gonna go in very lightly with this blush, and I'm going to use it more along the outer edges of my contour line. And now, Farsali spray. I'm gonna spray everywhere once more. And this time, using the sponge and just lightly patting everywhere with very soft patting motions. And now, to top it all off on the face, I'm gonna go in with my Classy Cake Cosmetics Diamond in the Rough highlighter. I'm gonna go in with the highlight shade rather than the blush shade in the center. This has such a beautiful shift to it. Now that I finished the highlight, that's really it for the complexion products that I can test on top of the foundation to make sure that it can stand up through all of it. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and go off camera, finish the rest of my eyes, my brows, and my lips, and I'm gonna go ahead and live about the rest of my day, and I'm gonna check in with you guys a little bit later and let you know what the wear time is on the foundation. I don't know if I'll have like a mid check-in away from the studio, then back in the studio, or if it's just gonna be right to the studio, but you'll find out in just a second. It is now midnight, well, midnight 30, and I've officially made it 4 hours, and that is the most I can do because I have to get up in 6.5 hours. Well, 5.5 hours now. So I'm tired enough to call it quits and seriously judge this foundation. So let's see what we're working with after 4 hours. I do look a little dry on my forehead, definitely. I look pretty creasy up there. It's not the greatest finish that I've seen in the areas where I crease, strictly because of the fact that it looks really dry. But I will say that my smile lines look great. They haven't creased at all. Neither have my laugh lines. I really think that this foundation is gonna be an amazing foundation with the right primer. I really don't think that Smashbox primer that I used, I put it up already, but I don't think that was a great fit for me for this foundation. I think this foundation is going to be drying enough that I'm not gonna need anything that's kind of mattifying underneath it. I'm gonna need something more hydrating to give my skin that plumpness, or at least maybe applying this right after my skincare routine instead of in the afternoon. Because with my skin type, I'm gonna need some moisture to cling to before I add something like this to it. This is just really drying. Like it even says on the package, it's made to absorb oil. That's its job. And I don't have any to absorb, so it's just fighting a losing battle here. But in all seriousness, I do think that if I prime with something a lot more hydrating, maybe a little more of a facial oil without any kind of mattifying primer with it, I think I'll be in business. So if you have dry skin, like dry, flaky skin, I probably wouldn't recommend this for you because I feel like it would be way too drying on you, and that's just not good. But if you have normal skin that leans dry, this could work with a hydrating primer. If you have oily skin, this is gonna be perfect for you. If you even lean oily, this is gonna be perfect for you. Over time, I am gonna try this a little bit more as well because I wanna give it a shot with different kinds of primers, different kinds of setting sprays, different kinds of powders. I just wanna give it different variations of products to see what kind of outcome I can get out of it, because that does change foundations. A face of makeup is a face of makeup, not a foundation. My skin does look pretty though. So aside from the creasing on my forehead, I think this is pretty much a win. I do. And like I said, if you have dry skin, definitely don't go for it. But anything else, the coverage is phenomenal, and you're gonna cover up any issue you have, guaranteed. So that's it, guys. That is it for this Smashbox Studio Skin Full Coverage 24-hour foundation review. And it also justifies why I stayed up an extra 4 hours and why I am only gonna get 5.5 hours of sleep for you guys. Also, if you want to see this look and more looks like them, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. My username is the same for everything. It's just ChristopherJMUA. And if you gain nothing out of this video, if you gain nothing out of any of my videos, please at least gain this. And that is to always remember and never forget that you are absolutely beautiful. And I love you guys. Bye.